go.
The bees are dying, and our survival depends on them. That's why 4RB's created the Pure Wave Cell, a breakthrough quantum device proven to help hives thrive, doubling colonies and boosting honey production naturally. Every jar of our Pure Wave honey fuels this mission, supporting beekeepers worldwide. Visit 4RBs.com. That's the number 4RBs.com, and use code WITF for 20% off. Save the bees! Save us all!
Where in the Folk is not and should not be viewed as a news source. Any names, places, or likenesses mentioned are purely fictional, and any information discussed is purely speculative. Guest opinions are their own and do not reflect those of anyone else. Where in the Folk is not responsible for content accuracy of any stories that are told or what people do with these stories. This show is vulgar, sometimes graphic, and due to its content, it should not be viewed by anyone, actually.
Welcome to another episode of Where in the Folk. I hope everybody's had an amazing week, and thank you for joining myself and Morgana as we take a little trip down the same thing we did. What's up, Crystal? So, Bezos, huh? He blew up a rocket today.
He blew up a rocket today.
That kind of fits into what we'll be talking about as we go into alien encounters that still cannot be explained, and a little bit of UFO history too. The assignment. But how's your week been? You've been doing well?
Oh yeah, I've been doing good. Busy, but that's okay. There are worse things to be. How about you?
It's been all right. Hey, Linda, hey, Ronnie, whoop whoop.
Hey y'all.
But humans have a very long tradition of looking up to the sky and saying, what the heck is that? For thousands of years, people around the world have reported mysterious lights, strange flying objects, and visitors that don't seem to belong here. Were they aliens, misidentified weather phenomenon, or proof that nobody ever really knows what's going on? So let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's dive into some weirdness UFO sightings. And I guess I could go ahead and hop on while you do Tully's job. So I want to get started with one of the earlier recordings, which, UFOs and aliens have been seen for thousands upon thousands of years. There's no doubt about it. You can see them on cave drawings. You see them, in ancient artifacts like pots. They have UFOs carved into them. The Egyptians had things, but what I want to talk about is something from 5000 BCE to get us started tonight. The writer Berosus described an encounter with a being believed not to be of this world back in 5000 BCE. The tale goes, one day on the banks of the Persian Gulf at sunrise, in full view of a group of curious tribespeople, a mysterious living being with a scaled body of a fish and face and hands and feet of a human emerged from the sea. The figure spoke to witnesses in their own tongue, introduced himself as Onas. Every day thereafter, he returned to the shore and taught the tribespeople the arts of civilization. But be assured, every night he slumbered in the sea. So this cat would roll up out of the ocean or whatever, the Persian Gulf, and tell everybody the secrets of how to become a nice little culture. And then he's like, but I ain't going to hang out with you guys. I'm going to go to bed in the water tonight. Now, this one can be seen as an alien, but sounds to me like this one's more of a sea creature, but we also know that there's USOs. So I believe that's possible.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite movies just for the originality of that was The Abyss, where it ended up being undersea aliens and everything, because, I think they were the first that ever actually kind of touched on that. But 98% of the sea is unexplored?
Oh, yeah.
Just look at some of the crazy things that they have found from way deep below, like that fish that has the clear head with the glowy green eyes that are inside the helmet and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things too, later, like in 2000, like in 216 BC, Romans were the ones that were seeing things like Livy, I believe his name was, or Levi, I probably mispronounced it. He reported shields had been seen above the Italian town of Arpi. And there's another Roman scholar named Abisquins. I'm butchering his name.
It's okay.
Who said that he's seen a bunch of shields fighting each other in the sky. Ching, ching, ching. So I mean, and we've discussed it before. You can only refer to something in the sky as what you would know it as. And at that time, there's like, it looks like a shield. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then when you see some of the more modern ones, that's really pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And everything. So, you know, one of the places that you see a lot of examples is in rock art, you know, around, you know, and here recently we actually talked about caves and cave art, and it's over in the Sahara Desert. There are paintings that are estimated between 8,000 and 12,000 years old. And in one of them, there was a famous figure that they nicknamed the Great Martian God. And they said it appeared to have a large round head and a body that some people say kind of resembles a modern spacesuit. And ancient astronaut theorists have pointed that to these images as possible depictions of extraterrestrial visitors. You know, of course, archaeologists generally interpret them as ceremonial or spiritual figures connected to the beliefs at the time. But, you know, you've also got claims out of Australia from the Wandjina rock art, and they have the large-eyed figures with the halos around their heads and stuff. And, you know, a lot of that looks a lot like what people describe as aliens now. And if you look at some of this indigenous tradition, they identify these as powerful creator spirits associated with different things. And, you know, we've...
I don't know what that's all about, because back then people really, I mean, I'm sure people had imaginations and things like that, but were they drawing fun little cartoons? They typically drew what they seen.
Yeah. Well, you know, even with your cartoons though, you know, you still have to have a basis, you know, I mean, you have to have something. And that's another thing that we've talked about over and over, is the fact that all of these different cultures that never had contact. People in Australia weren't communicating with people in the Gobi Desert, you know, 12,000 years ago. I mean, they just weren't. So, you know, but they're explaining some of this stuff that is so similar. You know, if somebody has the technology to come to this world, then they have the technology to go to Australia and to the Sahara Desert and all of these different places.
100%.
So, you know, and a lot of times researchers will look at the ancient written accounts, and they almost have a modern feel to them. But what was it? The Tully Papyrus that talked about fiery circles in the sky, the reign of Tutmos. And, you know, then in other UFO literature, you know, you see some of this same stuff. So, and I know a lot of it's word of mouth, but again, word of mouth, look at all the things that we're still discovering, things that were word of mouth that then boom, there it is. You know, Troy was myth until it wasn't.
Exactly. When did they discover Troy? It
was 70s. Late 70s.
When was Troy rediscovered? We need to have somebody else that researches this stuff for us.
Yes, we need a person that sits on the side, and that's their job.
1870s.
Okay.
I could have swore it had been in my lifetime. But
yeah, I did too. Or it may have just been the deep research and everything probably did. Because like I said, it seems like I remembered it, like I said, in the 70s, 80s.
yeah.
But right back before, UFOs and stuff were real.
It'd be cool if they found the horse.
I know. But it was wooden, and wood does decay.
Does it though?
There is that one big one out in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so maybe it doesn't. Back let me see if I can figure out when this time period was. It came out of Mesopotamia, and it talks about a king named Etana. Etana was carried high into the sky by a giant eagle. As he ascended, he described the earth growing smaller beneath him until it looked like a patchwork of fields and rivers.
Mm.
And so, of course, scholars interpret it as a story of mythology. But again, how can you describe that, when there were no planes? There was no air. It's kind of like the Nazca lines. They did that with balloons. Some of them are hundreds of miles, covering hundreds of miles.
Even if they did it with balloons, that still puts that form of travel out of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yes.
So there's no way that they can really explain that away. Stephen and I talked about this last week. I'm pretty sure it was.
Mm-hmm.
You can say that they did it for the gods and things like this, for sure. And that they just had some way of measuring it off really good. Okay, whatever. But I'm a person that likes to check my work. How do they check my work? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Be so meticulous in making a design like that. They're going to want to see what it looks like when it's finished or close to finish or what they're doing ahead of time, like the structure of it. And the only way they could have done it would have been from the sky. Like, I don't know. That's one of those ones. And if they do say it's balloons, then you need to rewrite history because balloons were not supposed to be a thing. So,
well, and okay, as you were saying, you want to check your work and everything. Okay, you're making this pretty detailed monkey. How do you know you've got that tail right if you can't see what you're doing? Even if it doesn't extend to, I need to check my work, I at least need to check to make sure what I'm drawing looks like what I want it to look like. And
I've heard people, I've had this discussion a lot, and people's been like, well, you see people make cool things in corn mazes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I do. They usually have, somebody fly over and check it out. Something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And that a corn maze, they can get pretty big and they can be pretty intricate, but I don't think they compare to the NASDAQ lines. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Well, they're not going to. Most people can't pay to have their corn maze look that detailed. And like I say, yeah, there are some cool things, and but okay, the crop circles. I mean,
you should get one, Rachel. You see what Rachel said? I'll bring you.
I've literally this year will be. Hey, Heather.
Hey.
May the 30th. So tomorrow will be 20 or 15 years since I smoked my last cigarette. And every once in a while, I'll get a craving, and then I look at the price at the service station, and I'm like, I am so glad. Because I smoked Virginia Slims. They're never on sale. And the last time I looked, they were almost $12 a pack here.
These are 12 here. And that's, I mean, I live in Kentucky, and I think Kentucky still has probably the lower of the tobacco prices. Because I think we have the highest amount of smokers still. I actually seen a chart either this morning or yesterday evening where it shows smokers per each state. And Kentucky still like 25% of people still smoke cigarettes. So
Yeah.
It's our cash crop.
That and whiskey, right?
Yeah. But
So,
I've quit things in my
uh,
life. I don't want to be a quitter no more. I want to see
I hear
things.
you. I hear you. Well, no, when Tully starts smoking again, he's supposed to let me know. And I told him when he started back, I'd start with him.
Might as well.
So, hey, good job, Landa. And like I said, and don't get me wrong, like I said, yeah, we've got a friend that's having a lot of health problems, and he was in the hospital for over a week, and he's like, well, hadn't had a cigarette in over a week. And I'm like, well, technically the addiction, the actual physical addiction, only lasts about 2 weeks. The rest of it's habit, mindset, and consistency.
I found out that my sister listens to this sometimes, and that means that my mother's probably listening. But I'm gonna tell a story on my mom about this whole thing and how that is real. So she had her widowmaker was blocked,
Uh-huh.
and so she had to have emergency open heart surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I can't do anything while she's having the surgery, so I'll drive up there after work.
Mm-hmm.
So I drove up there after work, and I expected, sit on a vent and all this good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's sitting straight up in bed. Says, all I want is a damn cigarette and a home. Like immediately after that. I was like, okay. You're fine. I'm gonna head on home.
I love it. I love it. And here's the thing. And like I said, I am in no way saying take up smoking or you should do it or it's good for you. But the surgeon, I had a surgeon one time. He was an open heart surgeon for 15 years. And he moved to that into just general surgery. And he would eat breakfast at my sister-in-law's restaurant, and my brother-in-law and his friends would be sitting around. Every morning he ordered bacon, eggs, sausage, whatever. And after he got done eating, he pulled out a pack of Winston's and started smoking. And my brother-in-law, who had heart problems for years, is like, how can you, as a heart surgeon, eat like that and smoke? He says, because in 15 years as a heart surgeon, I discovered it is 50-50, and it is as much genetic as it is anything else. He died of leukemia. He did not die of heart problems. He did not die of cancer. He died of leukemia. So, yep, you are glitching a little bit, Cecile.
Perfect.
That's okay. It was just trying to get our attention. So, the Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got about the Anunnaki?
Well, I mean, we how many times have we brought them into the conversation in one way or another? The Sumerians back in Mesopotamia, modern day Iraq, so about 4,500 BCE, and they have one of the world's first known civilizations. They developed cities, writing, laws, math, astronomy. I mean, that's pretty much where most people, when they say civilization started, that's where they point to.
Oh yeah.
So central to their beliefs were a group of divine beings known as the Anunnaki. The name is translated basically to something like those of princely seed or the offspring of Anu. Anu is a sky god. And in the oldest Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki were not extraterrestrials. They were gods who governed aspects of the universe, judged the dead, interacted with humanity through mythological stories. It's kind of like the Olympians, but, why would the heavens not also be outer space? And like I said, a lot of the alien connection came through. Who was that guy? Back in the 70s, he kind of, I think he wrote a book because he was the one that started talking about Nibiru, and he kind of made the connection between the Anunnaki and the wandering planet. So, according to his interpretation, These beings came to Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago, seeking gold, finding mining difficult. They supposedly genetically engineered early humans by combining their own DNA with that of primitive hominids, creating humanity as a labor force. I feel like I'm part of a labor force, so
Yeah.
I don't necessarily brush that off. But like I said, and this is one of those times I wish Stephen were here because he could tell us all this stuff without, blinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is his wheelhouse. But so anyway, all of the stuff from that time period aside and everything, the original Sumerian and Akkadian texts don't say specifically that they were aliens, but the fact that they came from the sky god just to me kind of brings that in. I mean, why would you consider somebody a sky god if they didn't come from the skies?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I mean, if they were real, just play the skeptic for a second.
mm-hmm.
That explains everything to me. Because I mean, it's really everybody talks about evolution and things of this nature, but we started off as, if you believe modern science, we started off as some kind of ape-like creature and kind of evolved. Now there are thoughts that mushrooms, what's it called, the active ingredient in hallucinogenic mushrooms.
Sicilium. Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. I ate too many of them as a teenager to remember the name of it now, but they say psilocybin.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
So they say that we got a hold of those, and navigating through trees kind of help us build our brain. But there were points in human history where the jump was almost too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Several points. Like the Sumerians, for example, they would have been the first city and things like that, but they jumped being these nomadic people that traveled around hunting food and things like that to build an advanced civilization almost immediately. It didn't take long at all. Not an aspect of history. Then you just kind of have those random jumps throughout history until we get to where we are now, where we're facing AI doomsday. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's weird because AI is progressing.
Mm-hmm.
But when it hit mainstream, 5, and it's to the point now to where it can do anything you want to do. So that I feel like us as a species cannot develop on our own in a way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that more and more over the last probably 2 decades, instead of saying, "Oh, this might have been, they try to wrap it up as, okay, we now understand that ancient civilization was more advanced than we realized. We just didn't give them enough credit.
Yeah.
But come on. Yes, I can get behind the ancient. There was more in ancient civilization than what has been recorded, but I don't necessarily think it was that mankind 12,000 years ago in and of themselves was that technology. We have too many things that exist. I mean, what was it I was reading yesterday? It was one of those things that they carried across deserts and building Venice. Oh my God, I went down a hell of a rabbit hole on that. And they were talking about, the fact that they had to make these like pillars shaped like pencils and drive them into the water, 15, 20 feet. And then they all had to be cut off perfect. And then they had to put all this stuff on top of them. And you're like, and they did all of this. These trees came from thousands of miles away. And I just, it's hard for me to wrap my head around history as we know it doing that. You know, that being the operative thing is history as it has been taught to us. It just doesn't make sense. But
I found out why I'm glitching. So this is what you get when you pay for, 2 gigs of data from Spectrum.
Oh wow. Yeah. Damn, that's bad.
Especially when you're hardwired in.
Yeah, because last time we were on, I was bumping 900 on Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I usually am, but something is draining it right now. I don't know what it is.
Mandy's in there streaming wrestling.
That's exactly what it is. I don't want. I literally got this text. You're not going to believe it. I figured out how to watch SmackDown live on Cheat TV. I got it at 8:31 2 minutes ago. So that's what it is. Good job, Mandy. I'll pursue as I can. I got to keep her happy. Wrestling.
That's all right. Because I think she could take you out if you ever make her mad. Because she's good-hearted and she's sweet. So those are the ones that if they ever go off the deep end, then the world as you know it's going to end.
Nice. But have you ever heard of the Muddy River UFO sighting of 1639?
Nope.
So this one right here is often cited as the first recorded UFO sighting in what would become the United States. The account comes from the journal of John Winthrop, the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony. So this fellow was a governor, and we all know that politicians can be trusted. So what happened was, according to Winthrop's journal, a man named James Everall and 2 companions were rowing a boat on the Muddy River near present-day Boston one night in 1639 when they saw us. Now, Winthrop describes Everall as a sober, discreet man, emphasizing that he was considered trustworthy. Now, the witness report stated there was a bright light appeared over the river. When stationary, it appeared large and square in shape. When moving, it seemed something likened to a pig or a swine. The light darted back and forth toward Charlestown as swift as an arrow, they say. And the phenomenon continued for approximately 2 to 3 hours. Afterward, the men discovered their boat had moved a mile from where they thought they were, despite having no memory of rowing there. Ain't that wild? That's a wild one.
That is. I had not heard that one.
Yeah. Now, believers point to the objects' unusual movements and multiple witnesses and the apparent missing time or unexplained displacement of the boat, similar to, UFO reports. Now, this one is particularly famous in its own right because it was recorded by a respected colonial governor rather than a folklore source. And it predates famous UFO cases by more than 300 years. It contains elements common in UFO reports: strange lights, erratic movement, multiple witnesses, unexplained displacement. So this is a little bit more modern than the ones that we've been talking about, but it's still in the 1600s, early 1600s. So I think that's fascinating that back then they took things like this credible enough to where they're like, well, I trust him. He don't drink or nothing. He's pretty discreet.
Right.
I don't know why he lie. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
That's a good one. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I wonder what it was. Now the mile thing. If they were watching this thing for 2 or 3 hours, the whole boat ended up a mile away. I could totally see that. Just kind of floating and watching this thing bounce back and forth from Boston to Charleston. So.
Oh, come on. Dang it. So, Nuremberg. The Nuremberg Sky Battle in 1561. So, like I said, about that same time period. So, what makes this one, it's actually considered one of the strangest reports in recorded history. It was April the 14th of 1561 over Nuremberg in Germany. So according to a contemporary broadsheet that was printed right in that same time, people witnessed what appeared to be a massive aerial spectacle at dawn. Witnesses described spheres, cylinders, crosses, and tube-shaped objects moving through the sky. Some reports claim that smaller objects emerged from larger cylindrical ones and appeared to engage in a kind of battle. The event allegedly lasted long enough for many residents to gather and watch, and the account concludes with reports of large black sphere-shaped objects appearing in the sky before the phenomena ended. Of course, modern skeptics, suggested it may have been an atmospheric phenomena such as a sundog or halo effect, combined with religious interpretation. So, but there was actually somebody who created a woodcut at the time that showed what they saw. And give me a second, and I'm going to pull that bad boy up.
Man, life kind of sucked back then, didn't it? Like, you couldn't take a picture of it. Or you're like, life in a way, you couldn't take a picture of it. So you're like, oh, somebody get me a piece of wood quick. Hurry.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So let's see. Present arms. Okay.
Now to cut this out.
There we go.
Why are you pulling that up?
Mm-hmm. And of course, I would pick the very one that. But so that was what the woodcut that was done, like within a couple of years of somebody watching that, and that's how they interpreted it. That's crazy.
That's wild. Could you imagine if that busted out now? Which I'm waiting for. Point.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even surprise me to walk outside and see an aerial battle at this point. I'm like, well, there it is.
Yep, that's it. That's it. So, but yeah, I thought that was cool. Like I said, because like I say, you didn't have cameras, you didn't have cell phones. You have, people that were gathered around talking about this and saying, oh my God, did you see it? I did. See, here's what I saw. Does that look like what you saw? The fact that it survived as long as it did means that it was valid enough for people to, okay, if I showed you something and said, Cecil, this is what I saw, and you tell me you're fucking crazy, and a couple more people did, it would get destroyed. I would never let it live. Yeah.
Heather, we used to talk about stuff related to the missing 401 until we talked to the guy.
Yes.
And then he left a sour taste in our mouth, so we've kind of quit researching his stuff.
yeah, we did. As a matter of fact, we had an entire episode planned based strictly on that. And then he is not our person.
No, he's
But I think that, yes, there are definitely, I think that in a lot of cases, you have a lot of abduction stories. You have, you have a lot of people, like I said, explaining and describing stuff, like I say, that is similar enough that you have to question it. You have to wonder, okay, can this many people be systemically wrong? And yes, I know that there are situations where that many people can be that wrong, but most people don't like being considered unhinged. Not a lot of people embrace it.
It is a thing. It is. But to get some kind of mass hysteria that forced everybody to feel like they saw an aerial sky battle in the 1500s is a little bit out there. Like mass hysteria would be more though. Orson Welles reading the news report like there's a back in that little town going crazy. They've never seen anything, but these people seen lights in the sky, frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't believe that the mass hysteria could account
Right.
for that.
Or, I could see it more back then, okay, say earlier than this, because by this time they knew what a solar eclipse was. But before they knew what that is, okay, I see mass hysteria happening from something like that, and I'm sorry, but if it were a sundog, or something similar, then it wouldn't be something new. It would not be something that, like, say, they reported that somebody made an image of, because then the next time it happened, they'd be, oh yeah, wait a minute, this happened, a few months ago or a few years ago.
Yeah.
But, so
now, mass hysteria, I believe, with some of the more like large ghost sightings, I believe that's possible. I've been part of that before, where I've been with a group of people and we've all convinced ourselves that we were seeing a ghost, and
oh yeah, you can hype yourself up, you can. But there's a difference in a subtle ghost. You hear a sound, or you saw maybe a shadow over here. Oh my God, right there. Then a sky battle.
Yeah,
well,
I hate to break off into this. One of like a little mass hysteria amongst a group of friends when we were like 16, 15, and we went to an abandoned hospital, and we were on like the third or fourth floor, already scared that we was going to get there. And we saw a light glimmering way at the end of the hallway, and first instinct was, that's a damn ghost, let's run, because with this light you see shadows and stuff. And so we decided we gotta go down there. So we start walking slowly down this hallway. The light goes out. Then we start hearing, things like that. We turn our light off. You make it all the way to the end, like close to where we see these shadows, and the whispering is getting louder. And we walk into other people from the same town that we were from. But that's even awesome. Let's see the Tankella. Two beaches UAPs are over Island Beach in North Villano. We have hours of a footage. Villano's cool. All right. I like to see that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, Island Beach, New Jersey, and North Villano, Florida. Cool. Yeah. That's there is a comedian when you got on Ghost Stories that I think I might have sent y'all at one point, but it was kind of long. But at the end of it, he talks about the fact that his mother is a ghost hunter, and finally talks him into going on this ghost hunt with him. Oh my God, it is awesome. I mean, because and he never at any point says, "Oh no, I don't believe that. Just showed me she was crazy," or whatever. I mean, and he left a little bit more. I mean, I think he went into it fully expecting to be able to say, "Mom, you're out of your mind," but could not after everything that happened and everything. So, I think a lot of things happen. I think, you can't believe that we have multiple dimensions and not think that there aren't beings that aren't on this, that just because that we don't have them right here in front of us does not mean that there are not beings we wouldn't recognize. Yeah. It's like a lot of times you've heard throughout history, people talk about, experiences with demons and stuff like that, but are they demons, or are they just something that they don't recognize and they don't know how else to describe it? So they immediately, because like you say, especially when you've got a community that is very deeply religious, like in the Middle Ages, because you either believed or you got burned, and everything. And, when the church, any church has that kind of hold over a world, then they're going to associate anything that they can't explain as evil, And I think a lot of these demons and stuff that people claim to have seen are just different beings that they can't recognize and don't know what else to call them.
Yeah. Mr. Dale explained it the best. I mean, there's different dimensions. There are some entities or what we would call people that they can transfer in and out of easily.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I mean, I fully believe that too, and I believe that at the end of this life, your energy does transfer somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't it be a ghost? I'm I'm unfortunately one of the people that want to believe so bad. I've done so much, like I've went on so many ghost hunts as a kid, and I've just never seen anything.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
scared
think,
myself a few times,
yeah.
but
I think it's one of those things that, okay, because I'm right there with you. I mean, I've got things that I can tell you I can't explain. There have been
yeah,
incidences, and there are things that I know exist that most people would say, "Oh, you're crazy as hell." But then I'm also that person that I want tangible. I want it to walk up to me and slap me in the face and say, "I'm right here." Just
100%.
like, I'm that person too that I would love for you to be able to hypnotize me. And nobody has ever been able to do so. It's
Yeah,
probably good that they can't, because I probably don't even want to know about that experience. But like I said, I mean, it's just been one of those things that's always interested me. But, by the same token, I
no,
have trouble meditating. I cannot still my mind. And I think that kind of ties in with why I can't be hypnotized.
yeah. I
But,
mean, that's the thing too. Like I went in search of these things, and I feel like if you're searching, like, and you're like, I'm going to find it, you're more than likely not. But
mm-hmm,
UFOs, on the other hand, I
mm-hmm,
have, and I've seen with one of our co-hosts, Totally. If Rachel's still
mm-hmm,
here, she probably heard the story 1,000 times. We were going to work, broad daylight. We carpooled, and I looked over, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And he looked over, and he's like, "I don't know what is that." So we're staring at it forever, and we're like, "That's a damn UFO!" Like, and
mm-hmm,
this was years ago. This has been, God, 14, 15 years ago, probably.
mm-hmm.
And that's what it was.
Yeah.
I guess it was an unidentified flying object. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it was an alien object, but that's what it was. We couldn't identify it, and everybody else that seen it didn't know what the hell it was.
Right.
There's another instance where I was driving by myself. Wait, no, I wasn't by myself. There was people with me, but we was driving down the interstate at night, and I seen one hovering. And I was like, "Well, right there's a damn UFO." A couple years later, and the other two instances have been fairly recent. Myself and the majestic Mandy were driving down Main Street in London, and we seen a light just hanging in the sky. And I was like, "What is that? Is that a helicopter?" And she's looking. She's like, "That ain't a helicopter." So uh, we got up on it, and the only thing I can explain was it was just a hovering light right there on
Mm-hmm.
Main Street. So I whipped it into a parking lot and jumped out as fast as I could to take a picture of this damn thing, and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was I was at band practice one night. We were standing out in his yard deep in the Appalachian Daniel Boone Forest over here. And we was looking up and you could see little black and brown triangles just flying against the night sky, like everywhere. And I was like, "What is this, man?" He's like, "Oh no, I'll see them every night." I was like, "What the hell is that?" So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, see, and that's one of the things that I have not seen is a UFO. And, okay, I would say that some of the more modern ones, Heather, are probably drones. But 20 years ago, drone technology didn't exist, or
Not like
that we
that.
know of.
Not
You
like
know,
that. The
mm-mm.
one totally I
And
seen was in what 2009, 2010, probably.
mm, yeah,
What kind of drones could anybody afford back then that were that big? You know what I mean?
right. And that's the other thing, I think sheer size in a lot of these cases, I mean, because what I think even package drones are probably, 2x4.
Yeah,
And, you've got people that talk about the actual sheer size of some of these things. You know, it's hovering over a house and stuff like that, you know, from the 70s, the 80s. Morning AI won't ceaseful to see them. Oh, hey, Nick.
But now the one that Mandy and I seen in the middle of town, that could have been a drone.
Mhm.
It could. The ones that we've seen in Daniel Forest, no possible way.
Mhm.
The one that totally not seen, no. The one I seen a couple years after that, I don't know. Drones were starting to become a hobby at that time. I just don't think so. Maybe,
Mhm.
maybe.
But here's the other thing that I will say about drones. Up until more recently, every drone looked just alike as far as the way it was built, the shape, and everything like that.
I can't even remember which one I made, brother. Oh yeah, he's talking about a thing I made for work. I made
Okay.
this little thing of me in suspenders, like saying something, and I didn't prompt my AI to do this, my Chat GPT, but in the background there's a picture hanging, and it's a UFO. Actually, if I still got it, I don't know if I still got it.
Shit.
Usually, it's funny.
So yeah, no, it's amazing. Okay, because all right, you know, I'm in my busy season. I do dance books and cheer calendars and media guides and all that stuff this time of year for local schools. And okay, I hate parents making their own ads because they don't understand production, they don't understand size, they don't understand resolution. You know, yeah, it looks great on your screen, but when I put ink on paper, it's going to look horrible. So we went through all the stuff, you know, and it was Publisher for a long time, and Publisher was painful. Canva has made this better. At least Canva understands things like bleeding off of a sheet and, you know, that this is going to be print for this or whatever. Still don't love it, but I can live with it. Chat GPT this year has made my life pure hell. Look at you. You look so professional.
This is a picture. This is a
Can I see the, yeah.
but in the background, right?
Uh-huh. I love it.
It's got a picture of me. I didn't prompt it.
No, it knew. It knew. But yes, I had a parent that she's like, oh, can you help me this year? Because she normally sends me a lot of her ads. And like I said, she's been using Canva, so they weren't too bad. But this one, she goes, AI is just making my life hell this year. So I said, just send me the ad, send me the pictures you want to include, and I will reproduce it as closely as possible. Her child had 2 additional legs behind her 2 legs in the picture. I'm like, you know, AI can only do so much, you know, because that was her thing, is it keeps changing her face. And they were subtle changes. You wouldn't have noticed it, but as her child, of course she could see it. And they're like, yeah, AI doesn't understand this, you know, and that is why you're having problems. So yeah, that was a 2-hour adventure in fixing her ad.
Since we're on the subject of AI, during the election, my mom is works at the clerk's office, and man, pink toilet sitting outside. So one of the cops took her picture and AI'd her onto a toilet, that pink toilet, and she wasn't too happy with it. I was like, that's hilarious, you know. And she's like, it's not that funny. So I went ahead and made this one for her. This is my mother sitting on a toilet, straightening one out on a pink toilet.
You know, if your mom beat you to death, I would say, you know, Judge, she probably was justified in it.
She tried once again, she didn't get there. But anyway, let's move back on to the subject.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to segue back into UFOs.
Yeah, that's go for it.
Okay. So, you know, we can all right, if we're being total skeptics, okay, the cavemen just didn't know what they were doing. The Middle Ages, it was all religious hype.
Yeah.
Even in the early parts or the middle parts of the last century, it was just TV hype. But what about all of the incidences of pilots that have reported seeing UFOs? These are people who are trained observers. I mean, their job is to see things and know things, that's, they know when things are atmospheric. They know when, just, what I'm getting at. But Stan actually told us a book to read, and I found it. I could not find it to purchase it, but I found on the Internet Archive, they actually had a copy of it. And I read it. And it was, and it's written as fiction. It was written back in the 70s. It was the most, it was so misogynistic as far as the writing went. But the story itself, and that's what Stan said. He said, you need to go read this. He said, and they kind of give it that cheesy Mickey Spillane type feel and everything. The guy's an investigative reporter. And he ends up going to this place. I forget where it was. And they hook him up with a military base. And, this guy that's showing him around, he's like, well, explain, how do you explain this? In this, okay, sundogs, or it's this, or it's that. And he's like, well, what is this stuff over here? He says, that's the stuff we can't explain. And he starts digging into this stuff that the guy with the military freely admits, we can't explain this. We don't know why this happened. We don't know what happened and everything. It was a very interesting book. I mean, I will give credit. Like I said, I was glad to have read that one. And like I said, it was just one of those things, I'm usually writing notes the whole time talking, especially if there's a guest on, because I'm writing down stuff that they're recommending and, things that they're prompting that I want to look further into. So I actually wrote it down. And like I said, I ended up finding it. It was a very interesting read because of the fact that, again, what the guy wrote was so very plausible. I mean, because, okay, there's an over the top type of science fiction that, everybody knows that that's what it is. But there are some things that I feel like when someone is writing, even though it is billed as fiction, I think a lot of times people bill it as fiction because they're like, nobody's ever going to believe this shit if I write it as true.
Yeah.
But when you start reading it, it starts hitting a place in you that just, you know that they're reaching from somewhere or they're pulling from somewhere that has some substance to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree.
So back in 1986, Japan Airlines Flight 1628, and this was in November, and it was Captain Kinju Tarachi. He was flying a cargo Boeing 747 over Alaska when he reported being approached by two bright objects. According to his account, the objects maneuvered around the aircraft and at one point flew directly in front of the cockpit. He described them as much larger than conventional aircraft and said they emitted intense light. Air traffic control and military radar reportedly tracked the unusual returns in the area. And, of course, radar data now, you're talking 40 years ago, people dispute it. The FAA, of course, they're like, oh, well, it was probably just driver, pilot fatigue or something. But that's pretty detailed, for fatigue.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, and then back in the late 80s, early 90s in Belgium, there were numerous military and civilian observations over the course of several months. They reported large triangular craft displaying bright lights. The Belgian Air Force scrambled F-16 fighter jets to investigate it. And when pilots attempted to radar lock, they got unusual radar recordings. They never could actually get it to lock on what they were after. So, of course, no definitive explanation, but the fact that the military took the report seriously enough to publicly discuss it, that in and of itself says a lot, because most of the time the military is notorious for deniability. We can't let people know that we might have actually taken this serious.
That would be a wild one for sure.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, kind of segueing off a little bit, but not really, the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah. What about the Bermuda Triangle?
Well, my thing is, it's always been about, things disappearing and stuff like that. And, there's been some speculation as to it being like magnetic or something like that. But more than one, pilots have reported seeing things. So are they seeing potential UFOs? Are they seeing into another dimension and that's where they're disappearing into? Or
I don't know, but it seems Bermuda Triangle has just dropped off. You know what I mean? Like, it was a big, like, for years and years, but you never hear anything anymore about it. But the triangles are everywhere now. You got the Alaskan Triangle, the Bennington Triangle, all kinds of places now. But the Bermuda Triangle is the one that still holds up because just people would just disappear. Planes, boats, birds, whatever it may be. I've seen them try to explain it with, well, you know what happens at the bottom of the ocean? It releases this methane gas and it bubbles up and then just takes down a boat. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense because the pilots that did survive and come back and things, there have been people that reported flying through wormholes. So,
but here's the thing. Okay, Gemini. Google Gemini. Is there a connection between the Bermuda Triangle and UFOs?
Yeah.
Okay. And just to throw this out there, I use AI a lot. And I'll look at stuff and then I'll throw it into AI and say, okay, what do you think?
Yeah.
I never get this kind of answer. No scientific or historical evidence supports a connection. This is entirely a product of science fiction and paranormal folklore. I usually will get, okay, this has happened and science says this, so it's probably this. I never get a definitive. No, this is not possible.
I mean, explain it away. Yeah, sure. I guess it was a highly traveled area, but what is a highly traveled area? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the mystery about the whole thing is, where did they go?
Because, okay, that is not the biggest area traveled in the world.
No, not at all.
I mean, I would think that the South Pacific was way more traffic. Things going from the west coast of the U.S. and around and back. I mean, that's just my opinion. But,
well, where's the triangle? The waves bounce off this corner and they make a real.
There you go.
Explain things like just let it be history at this point, like, because there are some explanations that make sense when they do all this stuff, but there's some that just don't. And it's like, well, we told you what it is. You need to stop asking.
Well, I've come to the conclusion, and I think we've probably talked about this more than once. Anymore, the minute the government starts telling me something is true, I start questioning it. Even if it's something I have believed for decades while they denied it. Okay, UFOs. Yes, I firmly believe that there are UFOs. But do I believe what the government's releasing right now? Hell no, I don't. Because, they're using it as a distraction. They're not going to give us the real meat. They're not going to give us definitive proof that there are UFOs. They're just going to say, yeah, well, this happened, and this happened. We've been hiding it from you all these years.
And let's not forget, before 2019, if you brought up seeing UFOs or anything like that, you was called a crazy person. You know what I mean? And then the pandemic happened, things like this, and then UFOs kind of just drifted out into the ether as like, yeah, they're probably real.
Yes.
But everything's so fucked right now that I was like, I don't even give a shit, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Get my food prices down. That's going to impress me. But yeah, the same. Like I said, I mean, anything anymore is strictly, a distraction. And like I said, I don't believe anything that they tell us, and haven't for a long time. Because like I said, things that used to be conspiracy theories, we're running out of conspiracy theories, Cecil, because they're all coming true.
Yeah. And like Heather said earlier, the history is wrote by the victors,
Yes.
by the ones that control everything. And that's 100% true, because there was a point in time where like newspapers and things would report on UFO sightings. And one of the real popular ones is the 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this occurred on July 19th and the 20th and July 26th and 27th of 1952. Air traffic controllers at Washington National Airport detected several unknown objects on the radar near Washington, including areas over the White House and the Capitol. Controllers at other radar stations, including Andrews Air Force Base, also reported on unusual radar returns. And some pilots and ground observers reported seeing strange lights at roughly the same time. Now, what they described was bright lights moving rapidly, objects appearing to hover and then escalate, radar targets making an abrupt change in direction, other objects disappearing when fighter jets approached and sometimes reappearing afterwards. This was taken so serious that there was a military response. The U.S. Air Force scrambled F-19 Starfighter interceptor jets to investigate. By the time the jets arrived, many of the targets had disappeared. On later nights, pilots reported seeing the lights but were unable to intercept anything. They couldn't catch them. So what makes this a big deal, The sightings occurred over the national's capital during the Cold War. Keep in mind, this is when the influx usually happens in sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Cold Wars, bombs being dropped, things of this nature.
Yep.
And that created concerns that they may be foreign aircraft, of course, security threat. But the Air Force held what was the largest press conference since World War II to address public concern. And investigators eventually suggested that many of the radar returns could have easily been temperature inversions. Just a temperature. Weather, make false
anomalies.
Yeah. But UFO researchers argue multiple radar stations tracked the objects simultaneously. Experienced controllers and pilots reported unusual behavior. And temperature inversions explanation doesn't fully account with what people were seeing with their own eyes. This is one of those things like, we know you've seen it, but you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
You watch this hand, we'll do it with this hand.
Mm-hmm.
But Washington sightings became one of the most popular UFO cases ever reported.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of ties straight into the Battle of Los Angeles. Now, this one's a wild one, but I want to get a picture pulled up first of Los. I should have got pictures. I usually do, but I was like,
Did you remember? Okay, that thought's gone. Never mind.
It happens.
Chinese.
Here we go.
Oh, the drones that were up in off of the East Coast earlier this year, late last year. Did anybody ever take credit for that?
I don't know. It kind of went away
as quickly as it came.
Yeah, they originally there was a little story there for a minute, like, oh, they're coming off of an Iran mothership.
Right, and that's where I was going with that. Wasn't there a mothership involved? An actual high government official said that publicly on television, which, that immediately told you it was probably a U.S. ship. But
those whole thing, the drones over New Jersey and things, I completely believe those to be us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At first, I wanted to believe it was hobbyists, like at some Kroger parking lot or something. They were launching these
like a group going, okay, let's see what we can get. Yeah.
At some kind of parking lot, they were launching these SUV-sized drones. But the more I think about it, the more I think that was probably just, us, the military, doing it, and they didn't want us to know why they were doing it or anything like that. But if you never heard of the Battle of Los Angeles, here's the actual headline from it: "Searchlights and anti-aircraft guns comb sky during alarm." And they took a picture with all these spotlights focused in on this area, and right in the middle, which is hard to see in this one, but there are other ones with higher contrast where you can see a saucer of some sort. So I'm sure anybody that's ever researched, anything to do with UFO sightings and things of this nature are probably familiar with this. The Battle of Los Angeles was not a battle in traditional sense. So if you haven't, let's get that clear. It was a massive anti-aircraft response to what military personnel believed to be an enemy attack during World War II. The event took place just months after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. With fear of an invasion, the U.S. West Coast was extremely high with responses. Now, what triggered it? On February 23rd, 1942, a Japanese submarine shelled oil facilities near St. Barbara and bombardment of Elwood. The first Axis attack on U.S. mainland during the war, which I bet a lot of people have never even heard of that, because that wasn't covered in school, that the U.S. mainland was ever attacked. This heightened fears that Southern California may be next. Now, on February 24th, in the early hours, from the 24th and into the early hours of the 25th, radar operators reported unidentified objects offshore. Air raid sirens sounded across Los Angeles. Citywide blackout was ordered. Searchlights swept the sky, as we've seen in this photo. And anti-aircraft batteries opened fire. Doom, 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 doom. That'd be fun. Wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning here. So at about 3:16, Army anti-aircraft units began firing into the sky. More than 1,400 anti-aircraft shells were launched over the city. Searchlights converged on apparent targets, creating dramatic photographs that remain famous today, such as the one that I showed. The firing continued for an hour. Just boom, 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 boom. Wouldn't that be crazy? Hear that. Unfortunately, people are hearing that right now across the sea. But now there was casualties that happened during this, but the damage came from our response rather than an enemy attack. Fallen shell fragments damaged homes, buildings, and vehicles. 5 civilians passed indirectly from the incidents. 2 died in traffic accidents during the blackout and panic. 2 suffered fatal heart attacks attributed to the stress of the event. No enemy aircraft was shot down. No bombs were dropped. So my thing is, what would this be a mass hysteria thing? But if it was, why was all these spotlights conveyed on this one thing that looked like an object in the sky with these bombs going off around it, essentially?
Yeah. Okay, so let's throw up a spotlight. Holy shit, what is that? So let's throw up another one. And you don't just throw up that many spotlights unless you're seeing something.
Yeah. Now, the Battle of Los Angeles is this is one of my first encounters with it. When I first heard about it as a child, I was like, this is fucking nuts. Aliens are real. They're from outer space. I don't believe that anymore. I believe more in the interdimensional, or they may be across from another plane or something like that. Or hell, they're probably out of the ocean. I think that's the way that they're leaning now. They're like, they all come from the ocean. All come from the ocean. They got barnacles.
There are whole cities down there that we just haven't discovered.
They got barnacles all over them, all kinds of stuff. But I mean that back then, the response to these things, such as the one over Washington, where they sent out planes, jets, fighter jets to take these things down, and just couldn't catch them. To where they're shooting anti-aircraft bullets for an hour what are they shooting at for an hour? You know, why would they continue to shoot for an hour if nothing had been hit yet? And they're like, well, this might just be a weather blip. You know what I mean?
So let me throw one at you. Okay, and this is not really UFO related, or not, maybe, who knows? Okay, I'm just going to throw it at you. So the other night, Mo's asleep, the dogs are asleep, I'm up, and I hear, honest to goodness, what sounds like a tornado. That low hum rumble that, you know, if you've ever heard that sound, you know the sound I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So it woke my dogs up, and when it first woke them up, they started raising hell, and then they went into pure panic mode. My dogs are little cowards. It woke Mo up, and it lasted for a good 45, 50 seconds, just that grinding hum. Other people in our area heard it. And so, of course, they were, oh, it was a tornado. No, it wasn't a tornado. There's no indication of a tornado that touched down anywhere. Somebody said, or well, there wasn't anything even shown on radar, you know, or anything. So, like I said, so weather does not filter into it. Well, we're just down the 30 miles from Stennis Space Center. And somebody says, oh, they're testing rockets. Well, first off, they don't do rockets. They do ground propulsion. But even so, no, they did not. There was nothing planned. And it was, you know, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. You know, they usually do that stuff during the day.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so then I go online and it's like, no, there was nothing done there. And then it's like, but they did send a rocket off of SpaceX. And sometimes you'll hear the sound barrier being broken, but nobody on the coast heard this. Nobody north of us heard this. It was strictly in a 20 miles would be big. Probably a 6 or 7 mile radius is the only place, the only people that reported hearing this. And like I said, Mo pulled up Facebook because he's on a group, you know, that's just our city. And people all over were, did you hear that? Did you? And that's when people are, oh, it was Stennis. No, it wasn't Stennis. Stennis didn't do anything. So no idea what it was. But to be isolated like that, you know, that would be to me more of a weather event, you know, I mean, because like I said, you know, 20 miles from here, nobody else would have heard that, especially if it was something above ground. But there's nothing on the radar that indicates. It's one of the few nights this week we didn't have thunderstorms.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, the weather now, though, it's so different.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think back to when we were having those snowstorms here. Frost quakes and trees exploding. I've never in my life experienced that before this last year. And when we were kids, it would be, you know, sub-zero temperatures, up to your waist almost. And we were playing in the woods. We never heard a tree explode back then.
No.
You know what I mean?
the video Steven sent us. Okay, you know, and Mandy's commented more than once on Facebook about this, but she is not the only person. I just say her because, you know, we're friends. But about snow is not snow anymore. Steven sent us a video of them torching snow, and it was turning black.
Yeah.
And this was snow straight out of, you know, that had fallen from the sky onto a vehicle. And, you know, if it had been just something I saw on social media, I would go, maybe. But this is somebody I know. You know, when it's somebody you know that Steven's not doing AI and sending us this and saying, look at this snow. You know, it's just crazy.
Well, they originally started trying to say that, well, that's just a carbon off your lighter, because people were doing it lighters. I think I've done it on the show before. I had Mandy go get a snow for us, and I sat here and did it like live. But it smells like burnt plastic.
But and too though, it wasn't dripping.
No, don't drink.
It's supposed to turn to water and it's
Yeah.
supposed to drip. You know, I mean, my mom, I can remember we didn't get a lot of snow. We got ice. If we got anything, we used to get ice storms. But every once in a while, we would get a pristine white 6 to 10-inch snow. And my mom would go and collect snow off of the top of the car and make ice cream.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put that crap in my mouth today if my life depended on it.
No, and I'll tell you, there's a difference in it because when I went up to Tully's, he had a little snowstorm, and I was going to do the same thing. I was like, "Watch this," and I made a snowball up there at his house, and I held a lighter to it, and it melted. It didn't leave any residue. The exact same experiment I've done 100 times for people, and that blows their damn mind. I tried it up there, and it acted like snow is supposed to act when you hold a lighter to it. It melted.
So that was actually snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got snow down here, and I did it again, and it turned black. Smells like burnt plastic. Nuts. And yeah, I 100. We talked about weather manipulation to nauseam. But
yes, we have.
But that's 100% what it is. And my favorite thing about that is that's still, in some people's mind, a conspiracy. Because when there's a disaster that happens and you bring up, hey, you were manipulating the weather, like, we can't do that. That's impossible.
Yes.
Manipulate the weather. But whenever there's a place that's too hot to breathe, they're like, hey, we're going to make it rain there by seeing the clouds. So,
but then when it floods, because they're not used to all that rain, they're like, we don't know what happened.
The Dubai thing a couple years ago is the best example of it. They were having the craziest storms known to man, like lightning strikes left and right, like just insane storms in the desert. And they's like, no, this is your all's fault. This is climate change. It has nothing to do with the fact that we were cloud seeding for 2 days before it, trying to get it to rain there, because we've never done that before, except for last year when we said we made it rain there.
Exactly.
That's the weather manipulation thing is still just pisses me off, because if it works out in their favor, they did it, and if it doesn't, then they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a friend one time that made such a wonderful comment. He was talking about a mutual friend's child. He goes, well, the problem with her is she likes to lie, but she has an atrocious memory. If you're going to be a good liar, you've got to remember what you tell people. And that's where we are. They flood us with so much misinformation and disinformation that we just don't believe anything. And then they throw in these little kernels of truth, and then they forget that they've been telling us all along that they didn't do this, you know.
Yeah. Well, here, I mean,
we had stuff going all the way back to, you know, the 40s and 50s of them manipulating weather. I mean, like I said, you know, I mean, and like I said, silver nitrate, isn't it, that they put supposedly in the clouds to seed them? But then when you look up what can this stuff do, they're like, oh, it's harmless unless, you know, you shouldn't consume it because of this, and you shouldn't do this because of that. I mean, so it's crazy.
Let's see. Let's just check this weather manipulation. Is it real? Let's just see what the old intranet says about it. Understanding the science of weather modification. Ideals that organizations could use weather modification technology to produce large-scale events like hurricanes, winter storms, or even volcanic eruptions is entirely unfounded. Let's see. Cloud seeding is a weather modification technique that involves releasing silver iodine and salt particles into the atmosphere and encourage water droplets to condense and freeze. So, here's the thing. That's two on the same page right there, right? Mm-hmm. So they're saying we can't make hurricanes, we can't make tornadoes, we can't do all this, we can't do all that. But what does going into the sky, shooting shit in the clouds so that it will make it rain, what is the consequence of that? Because typically what causes storms is, you know, the wind and patterns and things like that, of course. but the precipitation that goes into these clouds contributes heavily to it, I would imagine. Am I wrong? Like, I don't know. I'm not a weather manipulist.
Right. But see, here you think, because like I said, they say that silver iodide is generally considered non-toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're using microscopic amounts in weather manipulation. Okay, but when you're doing weather manipulation ad nauseum, that kind of builds up.
Yeah.
But then there are the overexposure risks, because they say prolonged or extreme exposure can cause localized skin and eye irritation, respiratory issue, and headaches. Okay. So people talk about how much worse allergies are now. Is it allergies? Or is it what they're putting in the air?
My sinuses have been wrecked to the point to where I can just feel them draining down the back of my throat all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Because
I've never had that kind of issue before.
And technically, allergy season is past down here. It's, May, March, early April. The majority of it's when the pine trees are flowering and all that good stuff. But I have sneezed more in the last 2 weeks than I have the last year, for no apparent reason. There's no pollen out there. I'm not sick. I'm just sneezing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the truth is, everything they do now, they try to put it in the disguise of, well, we're trying to preserve your food so that there's more food. We're trying to put this in your water to make you healthy, make your teeth clean. And the truth is, every bit of this shit is probably destroying us. It is destroying us. There's no doubt about it, because the majority of the things they're putting in it to help us out are known to be toxic. But in little doses. It ain't like you can eat this stuff every day and that shit build up.
Right. Exactly. And that's because, probably shouldn't even go here, but, I personally, okay, are vaccines perfect? And I'm talking immunizations. Absolutely not. There's always going to be somebody that's going to have a bad reaction. But if you look at how many children died from childhood diseases 70, 80 years ago, they do what they were meant to do. They eradicated polio. The last person in an iron lung died last year.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, no, it's not perfect, but I don't think that is the autism problem, because for 40 years, that was not a side effect.
Yeah.
However, when all of that started getting more prevalent is when they started putting more crap in food.
I think it's all together, because when I was a kid, what was it? You got like 12 vaccines or something. What is it now? I don't even know.
No idea.
It's huge. It's a huge number of vaccines that's required now. So I believe vaccines started off with a good intention to eradicate diseases like measles, polio. Polio is the main one. That was the one that plagued a lot of people. Things like that. But now you're giving infants Hep B vaccinations. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't like talking about vaccinations, because I'm half and half. I'm like, some are good and I think some are bad.
Right. Absolutely. I absolutely. And like I said, and part of the reason that I always said with mine, I realize that there are risks, but I know that there are children out there that cannot take a vaccine because it'll kill them. Yeah. Therefore, I feel that it's my responsibility to make sure mine are vaccinated so they don't give your kid who can't be vaccinated a disease. And I agree with you. I don't think that they should be giving as many as they're giving. Yeah. But like I said, I really do truly believe all of the hormones and all of the pesticides and all that stuff. 75 years ago, we didn't have Roundup on every farm, but now it's like in the ecosystem. Even though, well, no, it's not outlawed anymore here. They brought it back. But like I said, those things, they've proven that they're harmful. You know, it's been outlawed in most other countries, but yet we still put it in our food supply. But you know, huh?
Check this out. Now the requirement, if you follow the CDC guidelines, is 72 vaccines by the age of 18.
And see, what I'm sitting here reading says that it's between 20 and 30 from the time you're birth to 18.
So you don't even get accurate information on that anymore.
No, you don't.
Like what?
And as a matter of fact, it says, here you go. Now it's saying that the CDC recommends a routine for 11 diseases, down from the 17 a year ago. Wow. So who knows? I mean, I don't have small children, so I couldn't tell you what they get now.
Let's see.
But, you know, and like I said, you know, I think that, like I said, you know, I think that there are certain ones, the original ones, diphtheria, tetanus, you know, whooping cough, polio. I think that they should be giving those because, like I said, they did what they said they were going to do. You know, we had measles gone until people quit letting their kids have measles vaccinations. But a lot of these newer ones, yeah, you know, I say if it's a high risk child for a certain thing, then as a parent, you make that choice. I don't think it should just be required. But like I said, it's a gray area. It's always going to be a gray area. But I really do think that a bigger problem is what we are consuming. You know,
100%. And you don't have to look any further than your bread.
Mm-hmm.
Bread
Yes.
used to mold. Here is crazy thing because we started making our own bread, but we before we did that, we started buying it at the Mennonites.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I've seen bread mold in years. And we were cleaning out the cabinets, and I found a loaf of bread that I don't have any idea how long it had been in there. The only thing it had done, it didn't mold. It had shrunk. Bread's usually about this big, but it was about this big. The loaf was. It didn't mold, it just shrunk. And I was like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Like,
look, I used to buy, Sara Lee had a whole wheat bagel. The reason I don't like bagels is they're hard.
Yeah.
You know, but they had a soft bagel. I mean, you couldn't hardly spread cream cheese on it because it would tear. It was so soft. But they had a really good taste. So I bought them and I got sidetracked. I'm notorious for that. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, damn, I want a bagel. And I'm like, wait a minute. I bought bagels. And then I started trying to figure out when I had bought them. And then I looked at the expiration date and they're only good for about a week.
Yeah.
But here it was 2 weeks past that date and they still look the same as the day I bought them. So I'm like, okay, I'm not eating those. And I just set it on the back of the counter. Cecil, and this is God's honest truth, I kept them for over 6 months just to see, and they never molded.
Yeah.
I have not bought a Sara Lee bagel or piece of bread since.
What's up with that? What is up with that? Bread
Right.
mold. Bread
Yes.
mold. It molds.
Yes.
That's what it does.
The last time I made focaccia, I left it out on the counter because bread should be on the counter when possible. And 3.5 days later, I had to throw it away because it started growing mold.
Exactly. That's the way it should be. I
Yes,
mean,
it
it
is.
sucks to have to throw stuff away,
Yes.
but Jesus, I don't want forever bread.
Yes.
You know?
And hey, since then I bought my bread bags because I used to have bread bags, and they will actually keep your bread fresher longer, usually about 6 to 7 days if you keep them in there because they're waxed with beeswax and they keep that moisture and stuff out, but it keeps it from getting hard too. So, you know, like I said, so that makes a huge difference. But like I said, that's the way the Mennonites do it. That's the way the Amish do it, you know. And, you know, I can remember my mom having a bread box when we were growing up. And like I said, you know, she could buy a loaf of bread. And if it didn't get used that week, it got thrown away because, like I say, it was molded.
Yeah. And
So-
here's the thing, for anybody listening, start making your own bread. It's therapeutic. It really is, for me anyway. Like I make pizza dough, Mandy makes the bread.
Mhm.
But there's something about it when you're making the dough for it. It's just like, you know. but she can make a loaf of bread a week. She goes in there and does her dough. She takes her like, I don't know. She's got to let the yeast activate for about 10 minutes. And then she goes in there and she rolls it up and all this stuff. She gets that done in about 20, 30 minutes,
Mhm.
throws it on the counter, lets it sit for a couple hours to, swell a little bit, and then throws it in there in the thing for about 30, 40 minutes, and we got a fresh loaf of bread.
Yep.
It don't take
And
long.
tastes so much better.
So much
Oh
better.
my God, it tastes so much better.
Yep.
And it amazes me. And yes, we know we were supposed to be talking about aliens, but aliens are the problem. So we're going to talk about what all the aliens are causing.
I really don't. I really think that the technology and things that they're doing is probably derived from some kind of technology that they got. Like, well, this thing right here seems to be preserved. What they use to preserve this? Let's synthesize it and put it in our food.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it amazes me. Somebody made a comment the other day, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, I didn't need to hear that because now I can't unhear it. They're talking about beef is becoming an issue because it's getting so expensive because cows aren't living and this, that, and the other. Right at the same time, they're trying to introduce 3D meat.
Yeah. Well, they've already done that. It's bioengineered stuff. I don't know what they call it. Not Polly would know, but it was called bioengineered on the ingredients list, and they was like, well, people don't like that, so they call it.
And they still allegedly they still have to put something that that still says bioengineered without it actually saying bioengineered. And I'm like, no, if it doesn't say 100% beef, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Hey, I was bitching about all these rabbits multiplying. Yeah. Guess what? I know what went in them. Just like my eggs, that first $1,500 egg I got, I knew what was in it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, like, even fruit, if you buy it from these big markets, it don't go bad like it used to. It takes a while. It eventually does.
Yeah.
But not as fast as it used to. But go to your local farmers, because there's a place down on 25. We bought a watermelon. We ate half of it and it was like, well, we'll eat the other half of this, and we saran wrapped it and stuff, and it went bad before we ate it. And I was like, you know what? Good. Yeah.
Next time, what you do is you scoop it all out, you throw it in the blender with just a little bit of water, and you make it into a slush, and then you freeze it. Then when it gets hot, you throw them in a glass while you're outside cutting the yard. When you come back in, you've got a nice, refreshing watermelon drink.
I need to do that. But I was stoked to see it go bad because it hadn't been long. Yeah. I was like, oh, well, this went bad. Last time we did this, we got it from the store. We had it for like 3 weeks, and it was fine.
I tend to, and it costs me a fortune to do it. I do tend to buy organic when I have to buy it from the grocery store. And I will say this without a question, organic blueberries go bad in about 4 days. Organic strawberries go bad in about 4 days. And like I said, I really get pissed at myself because I'll forget that I bought them. And then when I remember, they're bad. So I've got a great compost heap going.
That's the biggest thing. We've taken up the tradition now, and we're getting better at it to where we're just going to the store like every 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
For the next 2 or 3. We'll still stock up on some stuff that you can freeze, but
like I said, I freeze some stuff. I hoard dry goods.
Yeah.
Just, because why not? I mean, if I die tomorrow, my kids can eat it, whatever. It's not like it's going to go bad. Dry pasta will last 30 to 40 years if you keep it properly. And while it's not really necessarily nutritious, it does have calories. And if we're ever in a position where we don't have food, it is what it is. But, as much as possible, try to, when Mo's home, eat, things where we know where it's coming from and what's in it and everything like that. But, he's on the road, and on the road, it's difficult, which is why I do a lot of meal prep for him, because if I cook it, again, I know what's in it.
Yeah.
So,
But for our food stuff, I'm sure you can find another episode. We've talked about that extensively in the past. It's so frustrating to talk about, though, because it's like, this is an active, I guess that at some point there was some kind of good intention behind it, but now it feels like the good intention's gone, and now we need
It's
to
all
say
fun.
we need to make money as hard as we can on this
Hmm.
somehow. Uh,
You know,
uh,
used to, if you bought a peach, you could put that seed in the ground,
yeah,
and it would grow.
yeah,
And you see that less and less because, I mean, I say that, and I have an avocado growing out here that actually came from a seed that was bought in a store, but that
that's hard.
is very unusual,
Yeah,
to get something to grow and to actually produce fruit. As a matter of fact, Monday, Mo and I bought a mandarin orange and 2 peaches and planted. You know, it'll be 4 or 5 years before there's fruit off of it, but in 4 or 5 years, I'll have fruit. I've got lemons and limes growing. We've got a satsuma tree. We've got blood orange. Uh, and I've got a plum tree growing. So like I said, at least those things I can control until
and
the government finds out and cuts them down.
yeah, exactly. That's another thing. They don't want you growing your own food. What in the
Hmm.
hell's up with that?
Hmm.
Why not? Why
Yes.
can't I grow a tomato plant? Why can't I grow peppers? Why can't I grow this, that? It's my land. I'm paying for it. I
Hmm.
want to put fruit on it. I want to put vegetables on it. What's the big
Yeah.
deal? They still
Yeah.
haven't really came out with a reason on why they're banning certain places from being able to grow their own food.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or harvest rainwater. There are places where it is illegal to harvest rainwater.
well, you
Well,
can't.
it's going in the ground.
Yeah,
So, but until they come and tell me that I have to get rid of it, and then we're going to fight anyway. So, that's
oh
when
yeah,
I'm going to become that person you see on the news because, like, say, this is my property. I pay taxes on it, which is bullshit because I'm not selling it. I shouldn't have to pay tax on it. I mean, billionaires don't have to do it off perceived, wealth. So why should I have to do it on my land? But here we
exactly.
are. But
All right.
until that changes, I'll grow what I want to grow.
Yeah, and we pay tax on tax on tax on tax. So let's have this one little thing.
Hmm.
Let's have this one little thing. It ain't going to ruin you. We still got
But
to buy shit for.
well, and they have almost eliminated the small farmer, small commercial farmer in this country.
Yeah,
You know that was one of those rabbit holes I went back not too long ago. Was how many in the last like 3 to 4 years these big conglomerates have come in and bought up all these little farms because the farmers can't make money. They can't, and of course then they lose it for next to nothing because then they can't pay the taxes, they can't pay their land note and all of that, and it's ridiculous. And a lot of them are going to damn data farms.
that's what I was going to say. I think it was an active foresight that, hey, we're going to need a lot of land to build massive data farms that are going to destroy our water supplies and
Mhm.
kill the air above and all this stuff. But when we're going to ride on this climate change rail until we start building these data centers, then we're going to dial back and be like, well, we actually climate change ain't that bad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I actually had an ex-employer one time. I'm not going to say employer. He didn't employ me. He was just the head of our department at that time. But something was said about climate change destroying the. He looks at me and goes, "You're one of those people." I'm like, okay, first, yes, I do realize that throughout history, weather has cooled and warmed.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, it does. But you cannot look at this world and say we're not contributing to that
Oh yeah.
because we are. Do I think it's as bad as they try to push it? Not always, because like I said, we used to have holes in the ozone that have evidently healed themselves. Now, we did put regulations in place to help dial some of it back. Maybe that was it. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, we were talking about this week. We've got almost 5,000 data centers in this country. Why? Because the next largest country that has them is China, and they have under 600.
Well, and I'm such a hypocrite when it comes to this, but this set up in a way to where it's almost addictive
Mhm.
because these data centers are to drive this AI experience that we're living in now. And Come to find out, AI might have a bigger impact than what they thought it was going to have, a little bit faster because it's starting to take numerous jobs.
Mr. Till today announced that it was not going to have the effect he originally thought it was on employment.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, he sure did. That's a direct quote. That is a direct quote. So, I call bullshit, because and that's kind of how they push it too, is because I was actually on a webinar this week talking about the ROI on AI. And that was one of the things they said. Oh, and this is not to replace employees. This is to make it so that you can take on more capacity and your employees can do their job more efficiently. Well, if AI can do that at the rate of 4 employees, why am I going to keep 4 employees?
Yeah, exactly. The only reason I can provide is because AI is not going to buy shit and it's going to destroy the economy. The most basic idea of the economy is people have to spend money to keep the economy going.
Exactly.
And if they don't have the money to spend, then the economy's crashed. It's done. And it seems like they're actively trying their best to make that happen. It's weird.
Oh, I firmly believe that. That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Do you not think it makes sense that they are pushing and pushing and pushing to crash the economy, because once it hits rock bottom, then they can build it back like they want it?
Yeah.
Where we're all living on rent. We're having to rent everything we have. Nobody has anything anymore. Where, Elon Musk said just a few months ago, oh, in 10 years, 401ks, none of that's going to matter. We're going to have so much money, everybody will get a paycheck. Well, what's that paycheck going to cost me if I'm not working?
Yeah.
So,
the whole you'll own nothing and you'll be happy thing. That is kind of where it's going. And, they've talked about, I've heard these wealthy folks be like, well, people could get subscription to clothes. You pay a subscription and you get clothes for a little bit and you can get new clothes.
Like that now.
Yeah, it's insane. Do they have it now?
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. I've actually gotten things in the mail. Oh, you send it in. We send you 2 outfits. When you get tired of them, send them back. We'll send you a new one. So,
oh no.
I just no. And I remember getting rid of cable and satellite and all that because I could stream just what I wanted. And I now have umpteen streaming services, and I'm paying just as much as I did when I had one cable network or one satellite. Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, it's been a conspiracy for a long time that they're trying to create what's known as like 5-10 minute cities, where everybody's huddled into one little area. They never leave this area, but everything they need, all kinds of stores and stuff, are in this one little area. So they won't have to travel or cut down on the carbon footprint, bro. And the whole you'll rent everything is the you'll own nothing, be happy situation. And gosh, they flood us with so many different things, so many different horror stories, so many different catastrophes happening. Aliens this way, war this way, water's depleting, water's polluted, boil your water. Like where I live, I can't drink out of my own tap. We have to go get mountain water. And it's to a breaking point. Like now I live in the country, and gas, we're lucky. I think gas in our area is probably cheaper than it is in your area if you're out there listening. I got gas today for $3.62 a gallon. How much are you paying?
I bought gas on Tuesday, and I paid $3.99 a gallon. And that afternoon, across from my office, it was $3.69 a gallon. I was so pissed.
Yeah.
But like I said, it'll be back up next week because it's been fluctuating on that 30-cent range.
Yeah.
But yeah, mine's still under $4 a gallon if you get regular. Now you're not going to get premium for that.
And living in the country, I mean, it takes me no less than 20 minutes to get to the Walmart, you know what I mean? Which is closer than I used to live.
Yeah.
Where I used to live, it took me an hour to drive to Walmart. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm 25 miles from my office.
Yeah.
So I mean, I drive 50 miles a day. I mean, and I will be honest with you. I mean, I'm lucky in the sense that I mean, I get 30 to 35 miles to the gallon depending on the week. Mo, y'all, you know, y'all picked about him having that little Hyundai that he had. He traded it for a Jeep. Do you know how much he regrets that now?
Once he gets 17 miles a gallon.
Yes, he's like, and he only drives once a week, but he drives 70 miles to work that once a week, and then 70 miles back at the end of the week. But yeah, he's missing his little Hyundai.
And that's the thing, you know. I'm lucky now in the sense that I'm where I moved to. I live literally 5 miles from my job. If I had to go on site, which I don't even have to do that, I work from home.
Yep.
But
you know, anymore, I'll be honest with you. If I have to do a Walmart order, I have it delivered.
Yeah,
because it costs me less to tip them than it does for me to go to town, spend that time, and then come back home. You know.
Yeah. And they're trying to wrangle us, but there's people in the country here and there, you know, that live out in the sticks that want to stay living in the sticks. We don't want people down our throat. I don't have an HOA. I can leave a damn broke down car sitting in my driveway for 50 years and nobody's going to say a damn thing about it.
Across the street from me. Oh, I say something, but that's just because I'm like, damn, I wish he'd clean that shit up. But, you know. But yeah, like you say, I mean, there's nobody that's going to come and make him clean that up.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, like you say, that's why we live out here.
Yeah. Well, I can do pretty much anything I want. I could go out here and shoot guns if I wanted. It wouldn't be safe. Not where I live at, but I could. And unless I hit somebody, nobody's going to say shit. But they're going to get us in these little areas, these little confined areas, so they have complete control. There's movies based off this. There's video games and stuff. You know,
The Fifth Element. I was watching it the other night because it's in my top 5. I love The Fifth Element, but the way that they lived, that's exactly what that reminds me of is where we're pushing to. Because, and here's another thing: if you push everybody to the outer edges and to the specific places, that clears up all that land for them to put more crap on.
Yeah, it's going. When used to, if you drive through Kansas, all you seen was farmland from one end to the other, and now you're just going to see massive buildings, massive buildings, more than likely. Because all that land,
that they have 20 people to guard and run.
Yeah,
because you know all these jobs that they're going to bring, they literally need a few dozen when it's done.
Oh no, it's bleak, but as time will tell, time in my opinion is circular. So what's bad news today, maybe something good will happen tomorrow. You know what I mean? Just keep the hope alive. If you can, I would strongly suggest checking your ingredients first. Buy yourself flour. Start there. Start making your bread at home, and then start growing. Then grow you a little mater plant, or hell, even start growing basil and shit in your window. Get used to that.
I got all that stuff. Did you plant your peppers?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good deal.
I hope I don't kill them because I don't have the green thumb.
And Linda, if you are still listening, I have not forgotten you. I have you a package. I will try to get it in the mail this week.
Yeah. So live every day like it's your last and enjoy every moment. Because that's all we can do at this point. Just enjoy the little wins. Like what's that? In Zombieland, one of his rules is enjoy the small things. That's what we got to look forward to.
Hey, I look forward to my Friday nights just so I can hang out with you.
I tell you, yeah, I'm awesome.
Yes, you are.
And we thank you all for tuning in. And we thank all the regulars, Crystal, Landa,
Alan.
Alan, Jenny was missing tonight, but she's probably busy or something.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you all for coming in. And Ronnie, I seen Ronnie pop in earlier. Whoop whoop.
Hey, Nick hopped on too.
Nick's my buddy. I like Nick. He's all right fella. One of the few Nicks I like.
All you quiet folks out there, jump in, say hi sometime.
Absolutely. And tune back in next Friday as we cover.
Well, it depends on whether or not the guys are back. If guys are not back, we're either going to talk about, and y'all can throw in a comment or send us an email or whatever if you have an opinion on this one way or another. But France, map anomalies, France, map anomalies, Germany, or the Nazca lines. Or we might pick something totally unrelated to any of those.
We'll be talking about
we wanted to talk about Egypt, but Tully insists on being here for Egypt.
Tully, I want to talk about Egypt. I'll be back in 2 months. Can't you wait?
So, who knows? Like I said, it might be one of those surprise shows. We might just have a free-for-all.
And speaking of Tully, make sure to check out Cosmic Crumbs on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. on YouTube. You can find that by going to linktree.com/Cosmic Crumbs. Cosmic spelled with a 0 because he's fancy like that.
That's right.
And you can send recipes. You can send topics you want him to cover. All kinds of good jazz.
Yep.
And thank you all so much for watching us, because we are watching you.